I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. Donald Trump consistently gets the worst legal advice ever. But it's not a coincidence. It is because Donald Trump wants the worst legal advice ever. And that's because he wants to justify his lawlessness. He wants to justify his authoritarianism. He wants to justify his malignant narcissism and his crimes. So he rejects anyone who is trying to give him a scintilla of legal advice that would constitute, at least at a bare minimum, a legitimate defense to his various criminal conduct that he is either being investigated for or that he is being charged with. And so, for example, people like Tim Parlatore and Jim Trusty, who by all accounts are fairly well-respected lawyers who Donald Trump managed to have affiliated with him and who were on his legal team, people with backgrounds that are objectively impressive. It's why they leave. It's why they quit. Because Donald Trump will reject their advice and listen to people like the tight shirt guy, Tom Fitton. He'll listen to people like Alina Habba and Christina Bobb and Boris Epstein and people who eventually, the legitimate lawyers go, how can you listen to them over the sound and prudent advice we're trying to actually give you? And so they leave. Here's one of the most recent examples. The Washington Times wrote an article. It's called "Trump Should Take the Stand in Federal Court," says legal team. It's the worst advice ever. Trump should take the stand in federal court, says legal team. Fantastic advocate for himself. Which lawyer do you think said that? You think Parlatore suggested that? You think Trusty suggested that? You think John Rowley suggested that? You think Christopher Keiss suggested that? No. Alina Habba suggested that, who Donald Trump turns to be one of the leaders of his legal team. But notice, for all of the bravado and bluster and statements like this that she made, during the E. Jean Carroll federal case, before it, leading up to it, you couldn't watch media without seeing Alina Habba somewhere. She was the one filing motions for most of the case or doing whatever work she was doing. I don't think she was doing anything significant because there was not a lot of good legal work done or any legal work done in that matter leading up to trial. She didn't do anything at trial. She didn't cross-examine a single witness. She didn't do opening. She didn't do closing. And for all of the hate that she threw Roberta Kaplan, E. Jean Carroll, and E. Jean Carroll's lawyer, when they prevailed at trial leading up to it, Roberta Kaplan took witnesses and gave the parts of the opening and closing. It was Roberta Kaplan's case. Roberta Kaplan wasn't going on the media every single day and trying to just speak for the sake of speaking the way Alina Habba did. But this was what this Washington Times article says about Alina Habba. Former President Donald Trump should testify in any of his pending court battles, including the federal trial on charges of mishandling classified documents and obstructing justice, a member of his legal team said. Alina Habba, a spokesperson for Mr. Trump's legal team, who represents him in several civil matters, told the Washington Times that she has no problem if the former president wants to take the stand to defend himself in any criminal trial. Quote, I think he's a fantastic advocate for himself because nobody can say it better than himself what he did and didn't do, she said. Ms. Habba said she prefers Mr. Trump to testify in the civil cases in which she has represented him. What's that meme or that video? Seriously? Or really? Really? You were his lawyer in the E. Jean Carroll case, and he was too scared to even show up for his own trial. He came up with a fake business trip that wasn't even necessary, where he went to Ireland and Scotland just so he could say that he was doing something that he was too busy to show up at trial. Then the judge gave him all the time in the world to testify, and he didn't trial. You didn't call any witnesses. You didn't cross-examine anybody. You did nothing at the trial. What are we talking about? This is what she goes on to say, quote, I think that he's very educated, very well spoken, and he's done nothing wrong. So when he's done nothing wrong, you speak to that when you can and when it's legally sound. She goes on to say, that doesn't mean that's what's best in a criminal case with the DOJ led by Jack Smith. Every case for any lawyer is a case by case, so we'd have to look at it. But I'm never concerned for Donald Trump or say no. Ms. Habba said. So when he's done nothing wrong, you speak to that when you can and when it's legally sound. But again, it's a strategy decision. It's a legal strategy decision for the attorneys of record to decide at that moment, where are you at these trials? You're not actually doing anything. And I like she gives us advice that she's this legal scholar telling him you should absolutely testify. As per usual, the economy was also a huge topic for the day, and why wouldn't it be? It's changing faster than ever and demanding we all adapt to keep up. In fact, a stunning survey revealed that over half of Americans making six figures now live paycheck to paycheck. Now, even though Goldman Sachs is saying that classic investments are headed nowhere for the rest of the year, other markets are rising to fill that gap, creating incredible opportunity among the chaos. Because even if conventional markets flatline this year, other assets don't have to do the same. That's why I'm so excited to introduce our next partner, Masterworks. I actually spent a lot of time digging into this, and according to a recent report by Citibank, the asset with the lowest correlation to the stock market of any major asset class was art. It turns out contemporary art pieces have outpaced the S&P 500's return for the last 26 years by 131%. Now, this market used to be hard to get into, but Masterworks is the platform that lets you invest in multi-million-dollar paintings without breaking the bank. Masterworks has built an impressive track record of 13 exits, all of them profitable. These numbers speak for themselves. Now, with those kind of results, Masterworks offerings have actually sold out in minutes before, so there is a wait list. But I reached out to them to give you all VIP access to their latest offerings for watching the MeidasTouch network. To skip the wait list, head over to masterworks.art/MeidasTouch. That's masterworks.art/MeidasTouch, or just click the link in the description of this episode below. That's masterworks.art/MeidasTouch, or just click the link in the description of this episode below. Now, back to the video. But as this one legal commentator who was questioned in this article said, yeah, it's going to be a legal train wreck if you do that. You're going to have prosecutors asking questions, and you're going to have to respond under oath, and Trump isn't going to be able to keep his mouth shut. Prosecutors would relish the opportunity to cross-examine Trump. That's why defendants don't testify on their behalf. That's like law 101 right there. But see, here's the thing as I deconstruct what's really taking place here with Alina Habba. This is Alina Habba's PR move, I think probably fueled by Donald Trump, because I remembered that didn't Alina Habba say this before somewhere else? And then I said, oh, yes. When the January 6th committee subpoenaed Donald Trump, Alina Habba was doing all of these rounds on various networks and right-wing networks, and she was saying that she would recommend in all of her cases that Donald Trump testify. So she thinks that Donald Trump should have testified before the January 6th committee. Here, play the tape.
He's got a couple options here. He can ignore the subpoena and maybe run into a Bannon world, or he can go and plead the fifth, or he can go and testify. Any idea what you think he's going to do, and what would you recommend?
I would recommend that he cooperate, because when you have nothing to hide, that's what I always recommend. The same reason that he always comes out and speaks on any of my cases. He has no issue being deposed, even though the left-wing media would like to pretend that he does. He has no issue being subpoenaed and answering questions about what happened that day, and he shouldn't. What he did was very public, and it was really nothing other than to say to go out peacefully, as we know.
Well, of course, Donald Trump did not testify before the January 6th committee, and his lawyers objected to it and filed a lawsuit to block his testimony before the January 6th committee. But this allows Donald Trump to say, see, look how strong I am. Look, I said that I would testify. I said that I would do it. I said that I would do it. And then he never ends up doing it. But here's the thing. Trump leans on people like Alina Habba, Christina Bobb, the tight shirt guy, Tom Fitton. And Tom Fitton isn't even a lawyer. Not a lawyer. At least Jim Jordan went to law school, never passed the bar exam, at least went to law school. Tom Fitton, not a lawyer. And he's talking about some case in 2012 that he lost, where he sued the National Archives, asking the federal judge in Washington, D.C., Judge Amy Berman Jackson, to grant an injunction compelling the National Archives to compel former President Bill Clinton to turn over his personal notes for his personal autobiography to Tom Fitton's organization, Judicial Watch. And Judge Amy Berman Jackson in 2012 ruled, what? What are you asking me? No, the federal court doesn't have jurisdiction over this. From 12 years ago, we don't have jurisdiction to compel the National Archives to try to compel former President Bill Clinton to turn over personal notes to Tom Fitton. Who are you? Who are you, Tom Fitton? And in any event, these are personal notes for a personal autobiography. Personal. And that's the Sox case. They call it the Sox case because they claim that Bill Clinton kept his personal notes in a sock drawer. By the way, if Donald Trump took personal notes for a personal autobiography in his sock drawer and they were his personal notes, that's fine. No one's arguing with that. If you want to argue that the Sox case stands for anything, if you keep personal notes in a sock drawer that are personal, you can have your personal sock notes. But the case isn't precedent. It's a district court case. It's not persuasive authority for anything that supports Donald Trump. In fact, if it was persuasive authority, it would be persuasive authority against Donald Trump. Okay? Donald Trump, if it was a personal notes issue, all good, but you can't steal classified records. You can't steal nuclear codes. You can't steal war plans. You can't steal sensitive compartmented information. The Sox case doesn't say you can do that, but Tom Fitton says, it is an absurd mentality. It's not even a partisan thing. It's like you're relying on people. Would you rely on me for brain surgery? I hope not. I hope you wouldn't. I would never give brain surgery advice. So you're just going to rely on a random dude who's wrong about everything? It's foundational. It goes to show you not just the criminality, but why this individual is just so unfit to be anywhere near any position of power. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. And wherever you get audio podcasts, subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast. And make sure you also check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Have an excellent day and hit subscribe on our YouTube.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.